Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, first item up is to approval of the agenda. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Just so the audience knows, Supervisor Nelson is at home recuperating from surgery, so we wish him a speedy recovery. And so that's why he's not here today. Next up is the consent agenda. Items 2 through 5 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Number 2 is approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2025 meeting. Number 3 is approval of claims. Number 4 from County Treasurer Tina Bertrand. It's the approval resolution authorizing the issuance of $1,200,000 taxable general obligation capital loan notes, Series 2025A, and levying a tax for the payment thereof. And number 5 is from Board Administration Heather Van Sickle. It's the approval of notice for property sale resolution for parcel ending in 5016, aka 410 18th Street, for Tuesday, March 25th at 4:35 p.m. And item B is the approval of notice of property sale resolution for parcel ending in 5001, aka 2910 13th Street, for Tuesday, March 25th at 4:37 p.m. And so with that, I'll move the consent agenda, excuse me.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. All right, with that, we're not at our scheduled set time hearing yet for the public hearing, so we'll go on to item 7 from our county auditor, Michelle Scaff, with the approval and receive for signature copier agreement with Visual Edge IT for the auditor's office. And I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Okay, so this is just, our copier is up for renewal, and so this is just the agreement with Visual Edge so that we can receive a new copier, and it sets the monthly billing amount and the color and black and white prints allowable under that cost of $248.73 per month.
All right. How is that comparable to the last contract? Is it the same? Is it?
The cost has went up a little bit, but we did negotiate to, as far as the amount of colored and black and white prints, they took an average over the year, and since we
Okay.
had the general election, we thought our average was a little inflated.
Yeah.
So instead, they just looked at the last 3 months to bring our average down for the,
Okay.
for the monthly cost.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. All right, well, with that, any other questions for Michelle? If not, I'll move it.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. Any other questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, well, this brings us, we're right there at our 4:35 set time. We'll go ahead and begin with that. So from Board Administration, Heather Van Sickle, it's item A is the public hearing and sale of property parcel 9005, aka 3508 West 5th Street. And with that, I'll move to open the public hearing. And so this is where, if you want to speak for or against this is not the bidding part yet, but if you want to speak for or against the sale of this property, you can come to the mic and if anyone speaks for, against it, or for it. All right, seeing none, I will move to close that public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Now we're going to go into the bidding part, so we'll open that up. So if you'd like to bid on this property, please come to the mic, state your name and address and your opening bid. And so whoever wants to start. And go
Lowell
from
Satterwhite, Hamilton Boulevard, Sioux City, $400.
there. Okay. All right.
Greg Finson, I'm from Dakota Dunes, and I'll bid $450.
Okay. Thank you, man. All right. Anyone else?
Wayne Merrill, here in Sioux City. I want to bid 1,000.
Okay. All right. And go ahead, gentlemen, if you want to take any other bids or.
I'll bid 1,100.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right. Seeing no other bids or anyone coming to the microphone, I would move to award property 3508 West Fifth Street to Mr. Finson for $1,100. All right. So I'll move that.
Second?
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Now we're at our 4:37 other set time. That's for the public hearing and sale of property parcel ending in 9009, 9010, 9011, which is 1813 South Olive Street, 1815 South Olive Street, and 1817 South Olive Street. And so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this. If you want to speak for or against the sale of this property, please come forward to the microphone. So, not a problem. It's all right. It happens to all of us. But yeah, anybody want to speak for or against the sale of this property, please come forward. The public hearing is now open. All right. Seeing none, I will move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes 4-0. Now we're going to go on to the bidding part. So if you'd like to bid, please come to the microphone. Just state your name, your address, and then just what is your opening bid. So yeah. So if you want to bid on the property, go ahead and come forward.
200.
Okay. What's your name, sir?
Mark Munoz.
Okay. All right. All right. Anyone else wants to? Good, we'll leave that
Mr.
open.
Chair, is that, I believe the minimum bid is $608.
Oh, let me get to that here. Okay. Thank you. I was looking at the wrong one. Thank you. One second. Everyone has a second here, guys. Okay. Yeah, 608. Okay. All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Chance Eaton, Sioux City,
Okay.
$800.
All right. So 800,
900.
900. Okay. All right. Any other bids? Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome to stand up here at the podium if anybody else wants to bid, or, yeah, please come state your name and address and what's your opening bid, yeah.
Hasina Napier, $1,000.
Okay. Okay. All right, yep, go ahead.
1,500.
Okay.
$1,800.
1,800? Okay, 1,800, okay. All right. Any other bids on for this?
2,100.
Okay.
2,300.
Okay, 2,300. All right, any other bids?
2,500.
2,700.
Okay, 2,700 is our current bid.
$3,000.
Okay,
3,200.
okay. Yeah. You can both stay at the mic if you want. If you want. You don't have to sit down. All right, we're at 3,200.
3,500.
3,700.
3,900.
4,000.
Okay, 4,000.
4,300.
4,500.
Okay.
$4,750.
5,000.
Okay.
$5,200.
Okay.
Uh, 5,000 and 400.
Okay, 5,400. Okay, all right. It's always good to have a good public sale. All right, seeing no other bids, coming to the microphone, all right, I would award 3 properties, parcel ending 9009, 9010, and then 9011. Is it to Mr. Munoz, correct? Martin Munoz, for $5,400. All right, I'll move that.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone. You can see Heather in the back for the sale of your properties there to handle the paperwork. Thank you very much for coming. All right. Moving on, back to the county auditor. Item A was already actioned, was moved, and going on to item B, which is information regarding House File 718 budget mailer, and this is for information only. So, all right, Michelle, turn it over to you.
So I wanted to share with everyone the House File 718 flyer that the auditor is required to mail out. We have sent this to our mailing vendor, and it's expected to be mailed out on the 14th, so Monday, those mailings should go out to the public, and this should go to every taxpayer in Woodbury County. I've got an example here that I'll show. It should be on YouTube and on your monitors here, as well as up on the screen, so that you can view the notice. It's a front and back page notice. Last year was the first year that the residents received this notice. And this is a notice that will show you your city, your county, and your school budget hearings, so that you have an opportunity to attend those budget hearings to express any concerns that you might have about those budgets. So as you look through this mailer, it's separated into 3 sections. The first section is going to be the city school, which is located right up here. It'll say city school. Your budget date and time is listed here, and the location if you want to attend those meetings. It lists the last year's property tax amount that was collected by the school, the last year's rate, last year being the valuations from January 1st of 2023, which would be the taxes that were paid last September and this month. The effective tax rate is the rate that would be held if the school received the same amount of money as they did last year. The proposed property tax is the amount of money the school is asking for at this point in time. This does not mean that this will be the final version. This is the amount that they have set in their budget at this time, and they have until April 30th to certify that budget, so that amount may go down. And the proposed tax rate is the rate that the school has in their budget at this time. The middle section is the county, which we talked about last week. You can see here that the county's budget hearing is going to be on April 1st at 4:00 p.m. to discuss this budget, this notice here. This is a separate from the regular board meeting. It's its own meeting that only will discuss the budget. It's located here in the courthouse basement. Contact information website. For the county's portion, you'll see there's an urban resident and a rural resident. So that's going to show the amount of taxes that were received for a person living within the city would be the urban resident, and a person living within a township will be the rural resident. Current tax rate is the tax rate that you're currently paying on last September and this March. Effective tax rate is what the tax rate would be if we received the same dollar amount that we received last year. The proposed property tax is where we sit right now in our budget as of last week when it was discussed. And then the proposed tax rate is if we were to approve the budget today as it was proposed of what the county tax rate would be. Each authority is required to list reasons of why there's an increase if there is an increase at the lower part. The bottom portion of the statement is going to show your city. So you live in Sioux City, it's going to have Sioux City's information. If you live in Mobile, it'll have Mobile's information. If you live in a rural area in a township, it's going to have all zeros in this area because we don't have the townships listed down there. Same version on this. It shows you where the date and time of their public hearing, and it shows the location of their public hearing. If there's any questions about any of these items, you should contact the phone number that's listed on each entity's information there. The reverse side of the mailing is going to show you some data. The top part is going to show the percent of taxes for the school, the county, the city, and the all other is going to include areas of other authorities that make up your taxes, which would include Western Iowa Tech, the assessors, and a few other smaller authorities, which is about 3.86% of the total taxes in this scenario. And depending on your city, you know, this is going to vary for the percentages. And you go down to the middle section, this is going to be for residential property for the school, county, and city. And this is going to show your amount of money, current tax rate, if you had $100,000 residents, what you would pay for each of those authorities. In the current scenario would be March, right now, or in last September. To the school, $574 would go, to the county, $330, and to the city, $767. The proposed tax rate is what you would pay with today's proposed levies and tax asking. And that would be for the school, for the county portion, and for the city portion. However, the proposed tax rate is based on a $110,000 property as opposed to a $100,000 property. So they're trying to account for increase in valuation to show you if you had a $100,000 residence in January 1st valuations of 2023, and it's valued at $110,000 January 1st of 2024, these are the dollar amounts that you would pay to each authority. And this is the percent change between those two areas. The bottom portion does the same thing for a commercial property. Commercial properties are taxed at residential for the first $150,000, and anything over that is taxed as a commercial property. So it does the same calculations to show those across the years. So I just wanted to show that to you. Those will be coming out in the mail next week. I'd anticipate around Wednesday or so the residents will receive them. And the authorities were asked not to have a hearing before, I believe it was March 25th. So there should be ample notice for the residents to be informed of when those public hearings are. I also have see if I can get this fired up. Oops. It's not showing, is it? Try this one. So this spreadsheet I'm trying to use to illustrate how this calculation on the back of the form works. So on January 1st of 23, you would have received a notice of what your residence was valued. And in this scenario, they're looking at a $100,000 property. So on that $100,000 assessed value, they're going to apply a rollback, which is this 46.3428. So you're going to pay taxes on that amount. So this calculates your taxable amount, which would be $46,000, and then we apply the levy. So in 23, this is the county portion only, what the levies were for city and rural. And then that comes up with your taxes that would be paid for the county portion. I also calculated out the rural, which is not on the statement. So if you live in a township, that rural amount is not going to be reflected on the back of this notice. Only the city areas is reflected there. Then on January 1st of 2024 assessment, so those notices would have went out to the residents last March. The statement is based on those assessments. And if you had a $110,000 property, the rollback for these this time is 47.4316%. So your taxable value would be $52,172 on that $110,000. And then we apply these levies per $1,000, and it comes out to the amount that, these are the amounts that are on the notice on the back of the statement, and then this is the rural amount. If you would like me to send this out to the board, I can. You can plug your valuation in here, so if you have a $500,000 residence, you would just take that. I've got it programmed to calculate your maximum county portion of taxes that would be resulting for the county.
Yeah, if you could, Michelle, that'd be great. Send out to the board.
Okay.
Thank you. And to Ryan, too. If you already have, I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
For that update and information. Once again, it was stated in the paper, right, these are the max, not the final. This is not where the board will probably land on, so just want to make sure our residents and citizens are not overly concerned, as we've seen the last couple of years with this new mailing due to House File 718. With that, on item number 8 is budget review. For this week, I have nothing. I was planning on, so the board knows, next week to bring up to discuss improvement requests next week. I'm going to bring some budget reduction ideas, and the next 3 Tuesdays we will, I was talking with auditor staff, we'll really bunker down and look at budget reductions and cuts and all that. Unless anybody has anything for today, but I have nothing for today. I wanted to make sure Supervisor Nelson, we could all be here together to talk through this. It's a very important year, but we have to have the budget finalized on the 1st, and then Michelle, correct me, you said on the 3rd it has to be, we have to get that to, who does that need to go to by the 3rd, April 3rd?
The first would be the last board meeting, and we have to have it to the papers, so we will have to have it to Karen and Heather by the 3rd,
Third,
the
okay.
adopted
Yes.
budget, so that they can publish that, and then the last meeting in April is when the budget would be adopted.
Gotcha, okay.
And if you'd like, I do have updates since last week of where some more revenue was located.
Yeah, let's do that here in a minute, yeah.
Okay.
Also with that, these next 3 Tuesdays, I'm also gonna plan, just so the board knows, plan a work day for us. Maybe a longer afternoon session, where the board's in session, where we can kind of have a longer time to discuss things. And Michelle, I'll get with you to look at your schedule too for that. So just FYI for the board knows where we're going with that. But yeah, why don't you give us an update, Michelle, on the budget?
Okay, so last week, we looked at this spreadsheet that I've got on the screen, and I talked about the beginning deficit of the general basic being 3.6 million. We did have a few findings at that point. These items right here have been identified since last week's meeting in revenue that we've received and never budgeted.
Okay.
So I have added that revenue to the system, and that brings us down to the general basic deficit of 2.1 million. Over here, I've added the improvement requests, and we have this kind of dangling sheriff's office offer that we can reduce by $104,000 in the equipment lines, and that's unknown if we're gonna take that out of the general basic or the general supplemental. So I've
Okay.
just kind of put that to the side for now while we kind of assess everything else. If these two proposed or potential areas were recommended, then we'd be down to a 1.7 million deficit in the general basic fund. In the general supplemental, I don't think there are a lot of changes. We did find some mobile home taxes that have not been budgeted for in the general supplemental fund, so we did add that.
Okay.
The positive thing about these fines are that they weren't budgeted last year either, so they can possibly be reflected in our beginning balances as a budget adjustment to change our budget reflecting revenue that we're actually have been receiving during fiscal year '25. So that is kind of double fold. It's decreasing our deficit this year, and it'll increase our beginning balance by the same amount if these areas, if we find that the same amount would be received. I think the rural basic, rural supplemental haven't changed too much, but overall, the net deficit would be 3.1 million. And this is all included in the budget right now. If we were, or if you were to approve everything as is, it would leave us with about a 16% reserves in general basic.
Right.
So we're still over the 15, but it's still a low amount to be in
Correct.
reserves.
Okay.
So that's where we sit right now.
All right. Can you send this updated out to the board as well, this spreadsheet?
Yes,
Thank you.
yep.
Michelle, does that 16% include what we talked about earlier with the, I guess, rejiggered estimate of the federal inmate income?
Yes, I reduced the federal inmate revenue by $2 million for fiscal year '25, and reflected that in the beginning balance. So that does include the reduction of the $2 million for that line.
Thank you.
And we're still at around 16%, just under.
It's good to know.
And did you, is it still a certain dollar amount for each percentage of reserves? I think when we spoke, it was like 400,000-ish. Is that
Yes.
still a good?
Yes.
Okay. And we need to have this completed for publishing on the 1st?
Yes, that meeting included,
Okay.
unless you have a special meeting before the 3rd, which leaves you one day.
But between the 1st and the certification, we can still make changes, or?
Yes, you can reduce from now until the 1st. Well, yeah, it technically can still be reduced, and until that budget is adopted, there are some things on the date that it's adopted that you'll have to wait until that day.
Okay.
Well, we can still make further changes like in the middle of April?
Yes, it can be
Okay.
reduced still in the middle of April, as long as it's just reduced.
Right. Okay. Yeah, my goal is to have a work day, a longer day for us on a Tuesday where we can, not necessarily to have a long Tuesday night meeting, but get everybody here and have some longer working days. But, yeah.
My opinion on the improvement requests is that in order to fairly judge them, they should be reconsidered and potentially added back in. But I think that looking at the total of about 509,000, 373 of that being in our general basic restricted limited fund, we should seriously consider removing those.
Right.
I would prefer tonight unless there's a reason to wait, unless you think there's going to be more information for the board to consider.
Not necessarily, no. I was just wanted to make sure to do due diligence, but you're saying remove the 373 and then the 104?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
We obviously had them in there for the max
Max, right.
tax levy, but now that that's passed, unless we have, after removing them, it looks like we still have a $1.7 million deficit
Correct.
in general basic. So
Yeah.
if some of them are going to be added back in, I think like every year before, it should be done on merit. And it's easier to add things, in my opinion, or it's more fair to others to add things that make sense rather than reducing bit by bit. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was your plan next week to do it all at once, or if there's some that you would want to keep in there.
Right.
If there's not, I would prefer that we remove them tonight.
Okay. Yeah, no, good question, Matthew. I was thinking for next week, just to, my initial thoughts were to remove them all and then next week go through merit by merit on them, look at it individually, but I see what you're saying. We could remove them tonight and then next week begin to look at the individual merits of each one. Yeah, I see what you're saying on that. But yeah, that was nothing really. Well, I would, yeah. Yeah, I would, that makes sense, I think, from what we've done before, and so I would approve, I would be in support of that. Yeah. Looking at, based upon the numbers of where we're at, yeah, we're having to look at cutting and with the restriction, like you said, yeah, general basic, yeah. There's not much we can do with that. So. Any thoughts, Kent? Dave, any thoughts?
Last week, there was a vote that I voted against, but I did that because not fully understanding the full picture of it. And so I am in favor of doing that now, so.
Yeah, this is Dave. I'd be in favor of that as well, you know, just to take it all out and
Okay, all right. I'll make that motion. I'll move just to, or do you want to make the motion? Doesn't matter.
Sure, I'll,
Go ahead.
I'll move to remove the all improvement requests from the proposed FY '26 budget.
All right, I'll second that. All right, any other discussion? Yep.
Good
Yes, good
evening,
evening.
Tina Bertrand, Woodbury County Treasurer. Just for clarification, for people who do actually watch the board meeting, maybe after the fact, the improvement requests that you're talking about right now are all those requests that each department came in for staffing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, yeah.
Okay, and so that this is removing all of those requests from all of the departments out
Yes.
of the budget.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
Is that,
The motion that I heard is to remove all improvement requests from the budget, which would be the funding of those positions. They're purely budgetary funding. They're removing the funding from the budget for all improvement requests being defined as increases in personnel or changes in personnel, grades and steps.
correct?
Yes, I'm
Just
just clarifying.
Because not people,
Yes.
right, and that's a great clarification, so
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you,
And
Michelle.
that is
Yeah.
that's the purpose of this conversation right now, is because there are people who are going to watch this board meeting,
Mm-hmm.
probably tonight or tomorrow, and there's going to be questions about it. So I just want it for the betterment clarification in
thank you,
terms
Tina.
of what the action item is. And then the discussion was to bring those back next week on an individual by individual case to talk about them.
Yes.
Very similar to what we did the first time that we presented them.
Correct,
Six.
yes.
Sorry.
Well, the motion is just to remove them. I'll have an agenda item for next week to talk about those individually, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so the
that's-
motion is just to remove them out of the
Is
budget.
to remove them right now.
Yeah,
And then there'll be a separate action item to either as part of tonight or as part of the agenda. It'll be listed
It'll
as
be in the
part of the
agenda
agenda next week.
Yes, ma'am, for next week, yep.
Yeah, and some of that
Yeah.
is being able to be prepared to come
Right.
back, because as a department head who actually presented them, this
Mm-hmm.
is the first I'm hearing that we're gonna come back and discuss them again. And I'm okay with that, it's
Right.
just, it's about clarification.
Yes, yeah, tomorrow there'll be an email going out. So tonight I was bringing this up to the board. My goal was tomorrow to send out an email to let everyone know that next week we were gonna discuss them either way, what we're, yeah, so.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it, that's all I
No,
wanted.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Good clarification, Tina, thank you. All right, so motion by Ung, I'll second that, by Bittinger. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, with that, any other discussion for that? Like I said, tonight, I didn't have any major budget reduction ideas, but next week I'm gonna be talking with Ryan and Mark and I'll be talking just to bring some ideas, but next week we'll begin that harder work of looking through with a fine-tooth comb through everything and looking to reduce our deficit here, so. So Michelle, thank you for your work on that and helping us with that. And Ryan, too, thank you for the stuff you've been sending out. I know it's been a learning curve, but, right. Right, yep. Any other thoughts with that? If not, anything, Dave, you have any thoughts, or you good?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Item 9 is reports on committees. Okay, none for you, okay?
No, the Veterans Affairs was canceled last week, so we're going to have it tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Dave, any reports on committees?
Nope, I don't have any.
All right, I have none for last week. All right, any citizen concerns? Come forward, yeah, state your name and address, and, yeah.
Hi, my name is Robin Shibro. I live at 311 East Washington Street in Elk Point. In 2013, I met Sheriff Sheehan. For the first time, he was a new sheriff. We had a tabletop exercise that we asked him and his crew to come out and do with us for hazardous materials at Nutaflow out in Port Neal. We did a great tabletop exercise of a release of ammonia a release of a breach of a leak in our piping. And he and various other officers from the police and fire were there also to help us to make sure that we did that appropriately and together as a group, so that in case we ever did have a leak, we would be prepared. I felt that Sheriff Sheehan was very productive with us, and we were very productive with him and his crew. Unfortunately, over the past 2 years, I have come to him and come to you with issues that have not been addressed. Specifically, I am turning in a document I turned in to you about crimes that, with hopes that hopefully he would respond to terrorists who've breached homeland security in our county, your county, meaning I work in this county and have worked, committed human trafficking, racketeering, murder, kidnapping, torture, grand larceny, forgery, fraud, and many other crimes in your area. Unfortunately, since I have come before you quite a few times, and I went to his office 3 times at least, nothing has been done, and I have not heard a response from him at all. Therefore, I want to make you aware and him aware, since he is not returning my calls or would meet with me, that I'm going to start a recall petition. I would like, Michelle, if you could get those documents together for me of how many signatures I would need to recall the sheriff, the actual documents of your code, statute that I would use to be able to do that. I'll pick it up. I'll leave you a week. I know the budget time is very tough, and I'm sorry it's right at the same time. But if I could do that in a week, that would be greatly appreciated. If he's not willing to do what he was elected to do, then I know as a previous county commissioner, I am going to submit recall petition against him and to have him removed as an elected official. I know, having been a county commissioner and having been awarded the United States County Official of the Year in 2008, across all of the sheriffs, all of the treasurers, all of the auditors, all of the commissioners, all of the assessors, across the United States, having been awarded that award in 2008, that you are committed and should be committed to doing your job as elected officials. He obviously is not. I asked you to talk with him. I asked you to get a hold of him, to get a hold of me. That's not happened. I'm not sure if there's a breach on this side or that side, but I've been over there and now I've been over here. And if it comes to the point where this recall petition needs to go to another recall petition, I may seek that also. But I do want you to know that this is not something that should be taken lightly by our sheriff. If he cannot look into human trafficking, racketeering, murder, kidnapping, torture, grand larceny, forgery, fraud, and many other crimes in your area, in your county, this is just wrong. I mean, I just can't believe it. And so I just want you to be aware that I will work my darnest, and since I've petitioned before to be a county commission and petitioned to be a state legislator, I know going out and getting signatures, I can do that, and I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, seeing any other citizen concerns? All right, seeing none, any board concerns? All right, Dave, any board concerns?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I've got none right now. Hearing none.